Hey everybody, it's Friday Fire, and things are insane. What a week. How things have changed so much since Monday. Thank you, Sir Winston, T&D Tesla, Sean Donnelly, K8, everybody in here for keeping us safe. Appreciate you all. The market cap, crypto market cap is now $3.65 trillion. Volume is $161 billion. And Bitcoin is over $105,000. And it's hard to believe. It's gone up 17% since Monday, and it's a $2 trillion asset, everybody. It's crazy. Fear and Greed, 75. And the ETFs had the 10th and 11th largest days so far in over a year. Fidelity and BlackRock are on fire. Nearly 14,000 Bitcoin grabbed, and so much more stuff going on. We'll talk about MicroStrategy and crypto and activities and the crazy bullish sentiment that is all over the place. All over the place. We'll break it all down. Thank you again, Do Travels and Pancake Panda and everybody else. Appreciate you all for coming. Let's get into the story. Not waste any more of your time. And this is not financial advice, just a guy on the internet. And shout out to Patreon. This is from Daddy Goodstick. Joined Patreon yesterday. Why took me so long? I don't know. Well, thank you for being part of it. Better late than never, as they say. Always in everything in life. Let's get into the Fear and Greed. There you are. It is 75 as we speak. People are very greedy. Yesterday was 75. Last week was neutral. Last month, extreme greed, 81. Who knows? You might get some extreme greed this weekend because weekends are bullish for crypto, especially this weekend, and we'll break down exactly why. Let's look at stocks. Stocks are still in fear at 38. Again, very different world, but there are things breaking that will change this in very short order. First of all, shout out to the bears. They're getting rocked. Joe Consorti says the shorts are getting completely rocked. I meant wrecked. Completely steamrolled. There is literally no short wall against Bitcoin at the all-time high. They're getting absolutely crushed right now, and they're scrambling. The bulls are completely in control, ladies and gentlemen. And guess why? Because of the narrative, which we'll break down in a second. Game theory is kicking into high gear. But it's so funny. The TradFi ETF buyers sold a bunch at the bottom, and now they're scrambling to buy back in. You can't make this up. Their timing is awful. Absolutely awful. While us retail folks buy the dip, they sell the dip, and then they buy the they buy the pump. Anyhow, bless them for coming anyhow. We had the 10th and the 11th largest days ever in the history of these ETFs, which are now in place for over a year, ladies and gentlemen. Right about 265 days of action, trading days, which is crazy. Another view of this is the red line is BlackRock. The blue line is Fidelity, and those two puppies are on fire. Fidelity had their biggest day ever in history in dollar terms just the day before yesterday. BlackRock have been super strong all the time. But the point is, these two puppies alone pretty much bought nearly 14,000 Bitcoin in the last 2 days. Remember, an 11th largest day ever. It's not the biggest days in terms of Bitcoin consumption, because now, instead of buying Bitcoin at 42,000 and 56,000, they have to buy it at 100,000. So your dollar goes half as far as it did a few months ago. Hard to believe. Again, that's how it works. So that's why there's a big difference between this chart and this chart, ladies and gentlemen. Again, your dollar doesn't go far anymore because all fiat is going to zero, as we know on this channel. So don't hold your fiat too long. Be careful. And this is a crazy chart too. Bitcoin is up 17% since that V-shaped recovery on Monday. 17% on a $2 trillion asset. That's crazy volatility, crazy move, and we all know exactly why. And the why is the 20th on Monday, which we'll get to as well in a second. And again, as I say, certain things are inextricably linked. You can't talk about one thing like crypto without talking about other stuff. So hope people are not offended. Sometimes they do get offended. Anyhow, Bitcoin. This is a cool chart from Charts BTC. And this is what I call the step change trend. So if you look at the history of Bitcoin and how long it's spent in certain day ranges, $1 to $10, 10 to 100, etc. 412 days for the first step change, 352 for the second, 100 to 1,000, 1356, 1,000 to 10,000, less time, only 1,100 days, 10,000 to 100,000, 1,788 days. The question is, okay, this is the fun theoretical question. If you break down this pattern, we've only had 11 days above 100 grand. And if this step change continues, yes, it's going to take a little bit longer to go from 100,000 to above 1 million or into the next zone. But the point is, will it happen? And the answer is yes. Within what time frame? From looking at these numbers, you could say probably about 2,000 days, maybe less, maybe 1,200 days, maybe 1,300 days, maybe 1,500 days. But the point is, if we consider the trend of moving from lower to higher price brackets, step changes, 10x's, it suggests that Bitcoin will eventually head to $1 million. And then it'll eventually sustain prices over $1 million. And that's the future. That's why I say stay healthy. My friends, it's crazy just to look at those numbers. It's hard to believe. And shout out to the folks that were in at $10 and $100. They are legends. Now, in case people think the market's getting overheated, this is from Axel Adler on X, and I have his Substack as well. The Bitcoin market is currently in a growth phase. And if you look at the MVRV Z-score, he smoothed it out by 180-day moving average, indicates that the price has not yet reached any extreme overbought levels whatsoever. We are still a long way from the top. Hard to believe, with Bitcoin over $105,000 as I speak. So again, the bears, everybody was calling, like literally last week, a few days ago, earlier this week, everybody was calling for $70,000 Bitcoin, $50,000 Bitcoin, even legends in the space, like Tom Lee, 70 grand. It's like, no, can't happen. Every dip was bought up, 91 grand, 92 grand, etc. Fast. You could watch it. Price falls, it gets munched up immediately, which is insane. And a lot of people are talking about how global liquidity is shrinking. No, it's not. This is my global liquidity chart. Year to date, global liquidity has risen 17%. 17%. That's a massive move, ladies and gentlemen. You can pull this up in your own trading view if you like. And that is huge. Yes, most of it's coming from China and places like that. But that's okay. Liquidity is liquidity. And you can actually look at this very carefully. And you can see the yellow line is the liquidity. And the blue is the Bitcoin price. And you can say it loosely follows, but it shouldn't really. There should always be a time lag. But again, that is not the main determinant of where the Bitcoin price goes, contrary to popular belief. What determines where Bitcoin price goes is demand versus supply. Money flow. That's why we track the money flow every day. Now, other crazy news that has everybody on fire. Strategic Bitcoin reserve odds are now up to 65% on Polymarket, up 30% in the last couple of weeks. Bonkers. And this is all because of kind of leaked press releases and leaked news about this thing going up and to the right. So will it happen? The market seems to think so. Thank you, KN, as well, for coming. More goodness. It's like never ending. But there's more, as usual. This is Uncle Fred Krueger, friend of the channel. His thoughts, actually, I thought were very interesting on, he calls it a BSR. I call it an SBR. Doesn't matter. Bitcoin Strategic Reserve, Strategic Bitcoin Reserve, whatever you want to call it. But here's why Fred is sure it's going to happen. There will be a very large number of executive orders announced on Monday. This is a given. A lot of things are going to change on Monday. And if there isn't an executive order on the SBR in this large number of announcements, then a lot of donors will be very upset. And, of course, he doesn't want to start the presidency getting people like donors upset. So we'll see if it happens on Monday. If it does, oh, ladies and gentlemen, we are off to the races. Shout out to Team Australia, DBF 430. Thank you for coming. Again, Fred has been around for a while, and he believes it's very likely to happen, and so does Polymarket. The question is when, and if they even push it through. And even if they just do it in a small amount of money, it doesn't matter. The dominoes will topple. Speaking of dominoes and game theory, here we are, Wyoming. I shared earlier in the week some of the money that's in Oklahoma in some of their pension funds that can now hopefully soon allocate to Bitcoin. But Senator Lummis and the president-elect are pushing for this, and Wyoming wants to play a vital role in this national initiative. They want to build their own strategic Bitcoin reserve, and it's not just about securing financial strength. It's about ensuring both Wyoming and America remain leaders on the global stage. And the other very interesting thing about what Wyoming said was they don't want to sit on the sidelines while other states like Texas, Pennsylvania, North Dakota, New Hampshire, Oklahoma, etc., Florida, did I say Pennsylvania? I think so, and others jump in with their own Bitcoin reserve bills. Again, dominoes, game theory, it's happening. And these are just small states within the US, but some of them are very large, like Texas and Florida. Okay, Texas is going to soon eclipse the size of California, I reckon, if they continue at this rate. So, what else? This is a quick summary of the 8 states that want a strategic Bitcoin reserve: Florida, Alabama, New Hampshire, Pennsylvania, Ohio, North Dakota, Oklahoma, and Texas. We are witnessing history in the making from Bitcoin Magazine. And I have my own little tracking list of the 8, but now I don't have to anymore because the media is tracking it for me, which is huge. And there was other stuff, which I don't quite believe, but all over the newspapers, even newspapers, mainstream media that actually can't stand this person, they believe Trump, National Priority Day 1, is a crypto reserve. There's lots of talk about throwing other coins in there. I don't see that happening. They should keep it pure form, just Bitcoin, even though, I hold one of those other ones on that chart. I think keep it clean. Don't mess it up. Don't pollute the purity of the concept. Right. My theory. Not sharing with others. Okay. And Fundstrat, Sean Farrell, top analyst over there, who actually looks very carefully at Bitcoin and has been doing so for a long time. He had a conversation with, I don't know who, CNBC, and he believes that Bitcoin could climb to 175,000 within a year. Tom Lee, in the same firm, head of the firm, believes we get to 200, 250,000. So there's lots of calls for 175, 180, 200, 250. It's like, and they're saying this with such conviction. It feels like you can almost take it to the bank. But of course, with markets, you can't do that with anything. You never know what's going to happen. Everything could go to zero tomorrow. So that is all the crazy Bitcoin news from Friday Fire so far. But let's get into some of the crypto news and some of the proxy news too. Crypto daily active users, again, still very, very strong. Solana just shy of 7 million, near 3 million. Aptos 1.2 million, really jumped up. Binance 1.2, Base 1.1. Aptos is above Base for the first time in, I don't know, a very long time. And Sui, 725,000 users. Remember, Solana has 10 times the number of Sui users. People think Sui is the Solana killer. But remember, the fully diluted market cap of Solana is only 1.5x that of Sui. So according to my metrics, Sui is beyond fairly valued. Unless, of course, their adoption 10x's, then I will change that thesis. Bitcoin 500,000 users. And shout out to Cardano and ICP for participating at the very bottom of the list. There we go. Gotta get my little fact sharing thing. Now, in other news too, this is a great chart from Bitcoin News, and it's kind of strange the way the first time Bitcoin hit 100,000, ETH was at 4K. Second time, ETH at 3,900. Third time, 100K. And I calculated that Bitcoin crossed 100,000 7 times in the last couple of weeks. Now it's above 105,000. But Ethereum is lagging behind. Again, it's about 3,450 now as we speak. Fourth time, 3,300. So the trend of ETH is going down, and all the focus is on Bitcoin. It is Bitcoin's time to shine. Market cap of Bitcoin right now is $2.09 trillion, which is monstrous. Today, Bitcoin alone added $100 billion in value. $100 billion. That's how big the move is, ladies and gentlemen. But let's talk about more crypto news. Solana now dominates all crypto chains, all blockchains in dApp revenue by a large amount. The app revenue that this chain makes is insane. And of course, this is related to adoption. The more people on the chain, the more active they are, the more transactions they do, the more revenue the dApps do as well, compared to everything else. But it's the black hole is screeching far, far ahead. They've got the best product market fit and by far the best adoption of any chain out there in crypto by a long shot, ladies and gentlemen. Now, Another breaking news too this week, Solana's current inflation rate is now 4.8%, and it's going down to 1.5% over the next 7 years. And they just issued a new, what do they call that, recommendation, which has been endorsed by Multicoin Capital and others to reduce the inflation even further. So this asset is getting even harder. Now, heaven forbid we get a SOL ETF in 2025 and the inflation goes down, means the asset will become even more scarce, harder to buy, and the price will go to the moon. So that's just how it works. So we look forward to seeing that as well. Now let's talk about stocks. This ties into all of the bullish stuff we just shared before. $2 trillion in market cap was added this week. This market sentiment is insane. Okay, the S&P 500 is set for its best week since November 2024, and days after being very close to correction territory. And since then, in 4 days, 2 trillion of market cap was added. And you can see the big movers here, nearly 9% on Tesla, 3% on Amazon, Google, about 4%. Everything is kind of up with the exception of Apple falling 8%. As you know, I have for a long time not believed in Apple. Anyway, the big takeaway from this is the Mag 7, with the exception of Apple, is pulling the stocks ahead. And again, from the Kobesi letter, this bullish sentiment is through the roof, not just for crypto, not just because of the strategic Bitcoin reserve, but here you can see US households, mutual funds, pension funds, foreign investors, financial asset allocations in US stocks hit a record all-time high, 54%. Okay? It hasn't been this high since, maybe pre-2000 dot-com bubble. The peak then, I think, was 51%. So it's even higher than that crazy time. And a lot of people think, oh, this is crazy. It's a bubble. We're all going to crash. But no, this time is quite different because this time we have a thing called AI, which is revolutionizing everything. That's what we've been talking about since 2022. But again, the other thing you got to look at very carefully in this chart too is the allocation to debt instruments like bonds. That's the blue line. Has tanked 9 percentage points to an all-time low of 18%. People aren't buying debt anymore like bonds. The 60-40 portfolio is dead. Now you should have 60% stocks, maybe 40% Bitcoin. Kind of like what I like to do. And at the same time, cash allocation also has fallen to 13%, near the lowest on record, despite a record global $9 trillion. I shared it, I think, in Octa on Tuesday. $9 trillion globally is on the sidelines waiting to be deployed. That's enough to buy nearly 5 times the market cap of Bitcoin. That's how much $9 trillion is. Crazy when you compare these numbers to each other. Now, let's talk about some more craziness, okay? Top volumes today, as of an hour ago, it's not even for the full day. If you look at this list here, you'll see number one stock trading volume today, $30.5 billion, and that was only, again, an hour ago. Tesla, number one. Number two, NVIDIA. Notice I own, by the way, number one and number two, Tesla, NVIDIA. Also, the one down the bottom, number 6, Microstrategy. But what do you see here? These are the Mag 7 stocks, plus this peculiar imposter called Microstrategy, 7.4 billion in volume. Again, going to be a big volume day because of the options action as well. MicroStrategy, as we run into the close, is up $30. Ladies and gentlemen, again, if there is such a thing as imposter syndrome, which one stands out? These are the top volume stocks trading on the planet. Okay? And they're the Mag 7, driven by technology and AI, with the exception of Apple, of course, maybe. They're trying to get into the AI game. And then you got MicroStrategy, bonkers in the middle. And JVS, I shared this earlier in the week, a few days ago. Since T won the election, MicroStrategy will be the second best performing stock out of the Mag 7, just behind Tesla. And that includes an almost 50% correction. But right now, as MicroStrategy is bumping up against $400, some of that correction has been reversed, but it's still way off the highs. And here you see MicroStrategy up a nice $30 today, 8.17%, while Bitcoin had so far a 4.84% day. Again, MicroStrategy runs faster. And they were also ATMing today. I could see it in the charts. They were selling stock even as it goes up. And they will announce another Bitcoin buy on Monday morning. Like clockwork, that'll be week 11 in a row. Now, this is a cool chart. I don't remember. I apologize who put it together. If anybody can remember, drop a comment below and I'll make sure I give credit tomorrow. But it shows you, because people are still bogged down. They still don't understand MicroStrategy. I've been explaining it since 2020. But here we are. They have a thing called yield. They issue stock at a premium. They issue convertible debt at 0% interest rate. They buy Bitcoin with it. And now they're about to issue preferred shares as well that they pay a small dividend on. But if you imagine year one, you buy Bitcoin, 1 Bitcoin, and you buy 1 Bitcoin in MicroStrategy stock, which you could actually buy during the bear just over 2 years ago. You could have bought MicroStrategy at a credit. It was actually selling less than the value of the Bitcoin they had. Hard to believe, but that's what happened. But anyway, just imagine for simplicity to try and get the point across. Assuming they do 15% average yield per annum, I think in 2024 they did about 86% yield. So again, just imagine they do 15%. And you compare holding 1 Bitcoin versus holding MicroStrategy over 10 years. And they're doing 15% yield a year. Your 1 Bitcoin becomes 3.5 Bitcoin. Or if you're buying at a NAV premium of, say, 2 or whatever else, of course, you might be buying 1 Bitcoin for the more than the cost of 1 Bitcoin. But over time, the yield will pump it up. How long this will last, I don't know. But that's the plan so far. And they're doing all sorts of financial jujitsu. So it's a very simple chart to understand how this works. I've always called it the infinite money glitch. And why I still hold, and why I haven't sold. And it's just fascinating to watch. We'll see how this plays out. I'll have a very, very, very close eye on it. Trust me on that one. And shout out to Tesla, the Widowmaker. And that's funny. Last year in 2024, I made a video called The Top Anal Cysts for Tesla. And this guy starred, I think he was number 3 on my list, Tony Sack of Nuts. And he's retiring after 26 years at Bernstein because in 2024, he said, Bernstein's tech analyst, best idea for 2024 is to short Tesla. And if you did that, you got wrecked. This is from SMR, Stephen Mark Ryan. And again, in a bull market, don't go short. If you want to play the short game, don't allocate more than 20% of your time to it. Shorts, yes, they can make money. Typically about 20% of the time for my 35 years of looking at markets. 80% of the time, they get wrecked, okay? They get wrecked because they do not do the work. Just like understanding Bitcoin, you have to do the work, the thousands of hours of study to make sure the penny drops and you understand how it works. Same thing with MicroStrategy, same thing with Tesla. These so-called experts, either they just had some crazy cognitive dissonance or didn't do the work, or both, who knows. And shout out as well to more shorts that got wrecked. Hindenburg Research died this week. They decided to shut down their short selling business. Again, not going to make it. Yes, you can get lucky 20% of the time, but don't make a practice of being short. You will get wrecked. Drop comments below for your favorite shorts, especially those. There's 3 top names now who are shorting Bitcoin. And they also got their butts handed to them. So I don't know what it is with people. They should know where things are going, especially with all this goodness. Anyway, a little bit of macro news before we wrap, ladies and gentlemen. Deflation has appeared to be firmly rooted in China. Here you can see the GDP deflator is below 0. And producer prices are below 0. Consumer prices are pretty much flat. But China deflation is happening. But they are pumping the economy full of money, which you saw at the very beginning with our liquidity chart. Where is it? Quick reminder how everything ties together. Now I can't even find it. There it is. Global liquidity up 17% year to date. A lot of that comes in China. You begin to see how everything is interrelated. And yes, China has issues. And yes, China's slowing down a little bit, but not that much. China is not dead. Not dead. Despite what you read in the newspapers. Yes, they have a real estate problem, etc. But their GDP still grew 5% in 2024. And they expect it to continue at 3 to 5% in 2025 as well, especially with all the money printing, which is what happens. I shared a chart yesterday, showed you that most growing nations and Western nations Government spending makes up 50% of GDP, which is insane to even think about. And final chart of the day, WEF do not trust them. They believe over the next 10 years, climate change and its consequences will pose the greatest threat to the world, according to 900 global experts that work with the WEF, which are having an event in Davos soon. But it doesn't seem to make sense to me. Again, you can see here over the next 10 years, the most concerning event on the planet is environmental or extreme weather events, whereas pollution is down at the bottom. That doesn't make sense because technically you could argue one drives the other. Why are they there? I don't know. But anyway, you could argue they say now misinformation is the biggest risk, when really you could argue this is misinformation itself. So again, check the source, learn who you can trust and who you cannot out there. Thank you all for coming. Happy Friday. Enjoy the weekend, ladies and gentlemen. I'll be back tomorrow with all the great stuff that happened this week. And let's check the market. Wow. Yeah, we're still hanging in there. I saw a number for a second. I thought 107,000. No, that was the $1 billion market cap of Solana, which I misinterpreted for a split second. Anyway, thank you all for coming. You guys take care of yourselves. I'll see you all tomorrow. Thank you.